was part of a video that Odell Beckham tweeted out. He's looking very relaxed. But people were passing out joints and Adderall at this thing. So, what's going to happen if they win? They're going to be blamed. It's going to be considered a little awkward if they win or if they lose. And let me just give you this tweet from Meredith Gorman, who's probably appearing there on screen right now. And I think her Twitter hashtag is Mer Gorman, or is it Mera Gorman, MEREGORMAN? But she summed it up well. And this opens up a whole social media can of worms here. She wrote, if the Giants lose, she wrote, if the Giants lose, we all know the blame is going straight to those players. Should the blame be on them? But that's just the way the world is today, especially with social media. And, I know he has some opinions on this. So Steve Lookner, you love when the co-producer, co-writer of this show comes on. And I have to give you full disclosure about him. I don't know if he's going to talk about this, or I think he has some opinions about this too. He's from New England and absolutely hates the Patriots. And I think we covered that in the last week or two, why he is like that. But he has some opinions there. So if he has any strong anti-Patriots bias, that would maybe come up now. Welcome, Steve.
Hi, Adam. How are you? Good to see you again.
I'm good. It's been so long.
I'm not getting in a Twitter fight today, so that's not why I'm here. I will say about the Giants thing that you just talked about, that my one thing is that I can't blame Odell Beckham for anything because he was on my fantasy team and we won the championship. So basically, as soon as we won the championship, basically anything we do, anything he does the rest of the season, I couldn't.
Was he actually the top receiver in fantasy, or was Antonio Brown?
No.
Sure. Actually, I picked this, by the way, preseason. I want to say my preseason pick is looking good. It's not the conventional wisdom. Steelers over Seahawks. It's still alive. Sorry.
So I know this because I listen to CBS Fantasy Football Today, which is like the best fantasy football podcast.
I thought you were supposed to be working.
Well, no, I don't listen to it when I'm here,
Okay.
when I'm home. But that's the best fantasy football podcast for the many of our viewers who care about this, CBS Fantasy Football Today. But the number one wide receiver was Mike Evans, and the number two was Jordy Nelson, who was on my team.
And who's playing the Giants this week?
Again, once the fantasy season ends, I don't care.
Yeah, but if he has a good game, you can't blame the Giants receivers. You can blame the defense, I guess. All right, we're losing the audience real quick here.
We lost them maybe when it came in.
You had a point about social media?
All right, so anyways, I wanted to get back and talk to you about this whole big Chicago video beating story. And let me first say, look, the actual incident itself with the kidnapping and beating is just terrible, and I don't think people should ever do that. So that being said,
the video speaks for itself. And by the way, how many people were in Chicago were murdered?
Oh, that too.
That day, too.
But I wanted to make clear that we don't approve of the conduct. No. But I will say, so today was like a very busy day at the office, and I kept kind of having one eye on the TV, and whenever I would look over there, we have all the major news networks on here, I would just see like hate crime and like beating and like Rahm Emanuel on TV and Obama saying something. So there were Obama saying something, and so basically this was being covered on TV as far as I could tell out of the corner of my eye, as if it were like 4 black people picking a random white person and just beating them senseless because they were white.
That happened, by the way, the day after Election Day. That got a lot of coverage in Chicago.
But in terms of today,
yes.
So that was how it was being covered as far as I could tell. And then when I finally had time to sit down and read and catch up on the news, I went to Chicago.
That's this weird fetish you have. You read the things beyond the headlines.
I actually like to get the facts behind the headlines.
You spend 2 minutes on these things.
And I went to Chicago Tribune because I figured they would have the most up-to-date stuff. And I started reading, all these facts about the case, and it seemed like, well, that's very different than what's being covered. And so for those of you who haven't read this, I would suggest you go read it. But basically, here are the facts as I know them. The white youngster, kid, teenager who got beaten, he was dropped off. First of all, he was friends with one of the beaters from school. Then his parents, or one of his parents, dropped the kid off to spend time with one of the people who beat him up, and the intention was to spend the night there. So the parents of the kid...
Not your typical hate crime. Reginald Denny was not going out there to spend the night with the LA rioters.
Reginald Denny's parents were not dropping him off to spend the night with one of the LA rioters. So the parents dropped the parent dropped the kid off to spend time with the friend for the night. Then, so...
You're using the term friend.
Right,
I never saw the term friend up there on any of the...
the major news networks.
No, including Fox News.
But there's more details, even more. So, supposedly, the kid ends up spending the next... That was a Saturday. The kid hangs out with the friend, with at least his friend, who's one of the attackers, until Tuesday. So it's now been 3 days of hanging out with no incidents. Then on Tuesday, the kid who got beaten up and the person, his friend, were having a play fight. This is reported in many sources, Chicago Tribune, New York Times. And I guess the play fight went bad. Something happened in the play fight. We don't know what it was. And at that point, the tying up and the beating started. Now, I know you talked about this with me, but I don't think a hate crime is when you have a friend and you spend 3 days with the person and your parents drop you off. Parents drop one of you off to spend time with each other, and then there's a play fight and something goes wrong.
I think a hate crime, I have a whole problem with hate crimes in general. What good does it do if you're injured or battered if you are the same race as the person?
Okay.
But, it raises the question, so did OJ commit a hate crime?
So, well,
he knew her.
And he knew the person, and so, I just think hate crime to me sounds like you don't know the person and it's motivated solely by their race or what their sexual orientation.
Well, and also, in this case, mental capacity. But here's another question I want to know. I don't know these people. They did not seem like geniuses in the video. Were the blacks who committed this mentally impaired to some extent? They were going to school together.
So certainly, I will say this.
If it's the same category, how can it be a hate crime?
If it did turn out that the black beaters, the black assaulters, knew, or at least one of them knew the kid, or all of them knew the kid from the school, and it was because they were all had like some sort of mental disability and they're in the same program.
Yeah.
That would explain how they knew each other, and would also explain maybe why they acted the way they did, because maybe maybe they weren't like adults who could express.
Yeah, and again, we're not excusing this.
No,
they're just saying, it's absolutely should be battery charges.
And we don't know this is the case. All I'm saying is that more questions should be asked. And to me, all these very relevant details about the 3 days hanging out and the friends and the parents dropping off, those were the key items. And to me, if I turn on like CNN or MSNBC or Fox, the headline right now should be like, these two kids were friends and they had a play fight that went bad. Because that's the big information.
Yeah.
But it's being covered as if it was just like four black kids who didn't know this kid, picked him out because he was white and beat him up. And that's not what seems like.
Oh, you know what? I have to interrupt for 1 second, and I want to continue this point. I mentioned Wayne Dupree. Did great coverage. I happened to hear his show yesterday, and I think I may have ignored the teleprompter. Go listen to the Wayne Dupree show from last night, the beginning 10 minutes. Excellent on this, and he's very sympathetic because I think his sister had some special needs. Sorry to have to cut you off, but I forgot to mention it earlier.
And the last thing I'll say is, again, I just think, if these news stories come up, don't react immediately and emotionally. Go do some reading. Doesn't have to take that long, and find out the facts on both sides before you come to a conclusion. That's all I ask.
And I just want to finish with, I'm not excusing their behavior at all, but I'm just saying there just may be more to it. And
yes.
We don't know what happened before. I doubt he did something. There were 4 of them, 1 of him, but what happens if there was something not on camera?
Oh yeah,
he could have said the N-word. We don't know
that's true, and the whole play fight thing to me might just be some story somebody told, and maybe it's not true. So who knows? At this point, we don't know that much. Before we go, I always like to throw out our Twitter feed in case.
Right, I always forget.
So mine is at Lookner, Lookner. Yours is
Adam_Taxon.
And they should also follow Right Side Broadcasting.
Yeah, go.
What is that one?
RSB Network. At RSB Network.
Thank you. Okay.
And how about following Brad Savage? He's been working so hard.
Yeah, give a shout out to Brad.
And that is at New World, New Age. And Jacob is our music director and does so much more here. Is it Jake RSBN Music?
We'll do Joe and everybody else next time.
Okay.
But we'll get to more Twitter addresses to you.
Thanks for watching, everyone.